I think we've got a handful of you out there watching. Thank you so much for joining. We've got a lot of material to cover tonight, a lot of questions to hopefully get answered. The gentleman that is with me tonight is the head of Vibram Disc Golf, and he is graciously decided to come here and talk to us and let us know, what his thoughts are behind, where they're going with the GRIP team. I know folks like myself are super excited about the GRIP team. And some other folks, may have some questions out there that they're just not quite sure if they want to be excited yet, and that's fair too. So that's what we're here to address tonight. We are hoping that once we're done with the conversation tonight, that everybody will be on the same page and we'll have a good push into 2018. So I'm going to go ahead and join Jeff into the conversation and go ahead and get him tuned in. Jeff, I appreciate you joining me, man. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay, Todd. Stoked to be here.
Good.
First, I'd like to apologize if I come across a little low volume. I've been under the weather, but hopefully I can feed off the energy here and power through. Okay.
All right. So, Jeff, the first question of the night, comes from a gentleman, Bradley Bramlett, and he's a super excited guy about Vibram Disc Golf. And he says the other night, I said, if you could ask Jeff, 3 questions, what would they be? And his first question was, he said, how is Jeff feeling overall? He said he felt like that he understood that it could be a pretty stressful position that you're in. So how are you feeling overall with where things are from where you started with Vibram taking over the disc golf?
Bradley, thanks for the question. I have more confidence than I've ever had in the decisions that are being made. Some important breakthroughs have taken place. Internally, we've been able to really focus on other folks at Vibram learning more about disc golf so they can help the business from their respective positions to a greater degree. There's been quite a bit of learning on the job without question, and at times that can be frustrating, but I'm the type of individual that takes that frustration and puts it in a blender and channels it into something that's palatable and try to understand what is a solution to the frustration. Rather than dwell on the frustration, I see it as an opportunity. So, needless to say, there are plenty of opportunities this year. And I'm confident in the direction that we're going to be taking for the remainder of the year as well as 2018. But I'm not so naive to realize some little hiccup may occur that may force us to have to adjust and adapt. And that's what any good business is going to do, adjust and adapt to circumstances that were beyond their ability to see into the crystal ball.
Hey, that makes complete sense, and I think that's a great answer to Bradley's question. Probably leaving a little bit more than he even asked for. I do have to jump right directly into his second question, which is, do you like pepperoni pizza?
Oh, that's a good question. Not as much as I did when I was younger. The pepperoni really doesn't agree with me as I get older. But to me, that's the classic pie, that or margarita.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. All right, good deal. So Bradley, there you go, man. He says the pepperoni is a limited selection for him these days, and that's fair. That's cool. So let's do a quick regroup of 2017 and what an awesome year it was for Vibram Disc Golf. And feel free to plug in where I missed a couple of things, but we had some awesome stuff happen with the Colors of Soft this year. We had the launch, we had the Crag, we had Vinnie Miller hitting the street and doing some awesome stuff with Rubber Meets the Road, which I feel like really brought the Collectors group and the groundwork, the kind of those guys that are out there just pushing the love just because they're goofballs like me and just love rubber, right? And so then, there was a little bit of a gap there in the summertime, which we talked about. We know that there was a lot of work going on with the factory and just trying to get some things grinded out there. But then, man, the Vibram Open was awesome. I didn't personally get to go to the tournament or anything like that, but I know the experience from where we are on our end was incredible. I mean, that partnership you had with Hawk's Nest and, releasing those really hard to find discs and stuff like that. I mean, to me, it seemed like a pretty good way to end the year. How did you feel about that?
Well, Hawk's Nest was great to work with, and we actually throughout the year found things hidden in the vault, and found and created multiple opportunities for similar such situations. We have one business partner that will be slowly but surely making available some discs that we made available to them. And we're working on an order right now for the last of the discs that we found in the vault that will be heading to another retailer. And we'll announce those in due time, once they ship to those guys and they're ready to sell them. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but those were some really unique and cool opportunities for us that we didn't realize we even had within our mechanisms. The factory is such a big place. It's pretty easy for a pallet or two to kind of get swallowed up in the pile there. So
I'm sure
there's some really neat stuff. I would say to everybody, keep an eye out amongst all the chatter on social media and with one another, because there's going to be plenty of opportunities for some previously released or not released unique products from us.
I know for me, obviously, the fact that I'm running a Vibram Collector page, that is like super awesome and is going to have me stirring the pages now. Any hints out there as to who we might see on this list, or is it going to be multiple vendors out there?
Well, we because of the nature of how they were found and the way that we really need to move the product, it was our preference to work with just one person each time, one retailer,
okay,
rather than splitting it all up. Because many of these things were never items that were within our catalog, so to speak. So in order to keep that workload down and allowing our internal resources to focus on areas where their need was far greater, we found the simplest solution was to offer these up as bulk purchases to a couple of retailers. So Infinite Disc was one. We worked with Hawk's Nest, the Vibram Open, and that was a wonderful experience because we actually got to work hand in hand and together with Chris and his team.
Yeah.
And the other one will be shipping in the next couple days to a pretty well-known retailer in Minnesota.
Okay, awesome. Minnesota. I'm writing this down. All right, guys. So you out there, if you didn't catch it, or you just happen to be daydreaming or what have you, Minnesota. Okay, that's where we all got to work as a group and go after that thing. We'll find them. That's really awesome, man. I like the fact that you're giving these retailers an opportunity to be part of it too, because this could have definitely been something that you could have released on the factory site, right?
It is, and as we progress in this conversation this evening, I'll shed more light on just how we feel we can differentiate ourselves in the disc golf industry by forging stronger retail partnerships. But the groundwork started with Chris and Hawk's Nest, and I'm very appreciative of what they did to pull this together rather quickly for the Vibram Open and have it be as successful as it was. Those that don't know, Chris also has a full-time job outside of disc golf, like many folks, and he was playing in the event itself. So, I mean, that guy was a warrior during the whole event to put the event on that he did, and to be able to service customers in the way he did. I was truly appreciative of those efforts. And we in the past few weeks have made available limited edition mini coasters and the throwing stars to a number of retailers, and through our social media channels in the coming days we'll be announcing who has received some of those. They were very limited runs, and I would say this is likely the last time we'll do these products, because we're going to move forward using the 4-disc mold that you alluded to earlier, that we did the float minis with. As everybody knows, we were unable to continue making float because of issues that it created at the production level, directly tied to the compression molding manufacturing process. And we found that a great use of that material would be none other than to break that mold open and create some limited edition minis. And going forward, we're going to work within Vibram and our soling partnerships and vet other opportunities like that throughout the year for one-off limited edition runs with using that same mold and putting some really neat and unique product in the marketplace that, in my opinion, should be highly collectible.
Yeah, I would definitely. I mean, I think that goes without saying. I mean, it's definitely going to be highly collectible. But can you help kind of frame this for everybody that doesn't understand? You know, I would imagine we probably have some guys out there that are new to Vibram that are just hearing about it. You know, what I heard you say was that it's a 4-disc mold. And what I would imagine, and for those of you that are just tuning in, we gave away, and bear with me as I get these pulled up, but we gave away one of these, or a choice of one of these, to one of the guys earlier. So you have the Summit mold, I'm assuming, which is the flat mold. And then you have the, the Ascent with the boot stamp on top. And these are super grippy, that's for sure. And then you have the complete boot stamp, right? And then you have the swirl. So if I'm understanding correctly, so is it one piece that has like one slot for each of these? Is that how that works?
It's one plate with 4 unique 3-dimensional molds within it.
Okay.
That represent each of the 4 discs you mentioned, the 2 Summits and the 2 Ascents.
Awesome, man. That's really cool. So,
and that's part of why I know there was some confusion when we released this, that we only released it as one item, but that's part of the reason internally for us, the way our internal structures are set up, that's one item.
Yeah.
The other thing it did, and I think this makes it even more unique, and it was really a pleasure to watch, is how quickly you all banded together to try to help one another find the 4 individual pieces that make up the one SKU as it is.
Yeah. I think it's minis is one of those things that, for most of us anyway, it makes it a collectible a little bit more affordable. Because not everybody can afford to pay. I mean, even when they come out at retail price, not everybody can afford to pay for a $20 disc that has a special run. Like for instance, when we a couple of years ago when the Maple Hill Open disc and the Vibram Open disc, those were a little bit more expensive, right? The hybrids that came out. So not everybody can afford that, but you roll out some minis and, they run in $7-8 a pop. I mean, that's something that most people can afford, and maybe even a couple of them makes it a lot more fun. That's for sure.
It does. And I tell you, the velocity of how quickly we sold them could not keep up with how quickly we could make them. We only used half of the remaining materials. So they're in the near future, possibly the end of this year, beginning of next year, we'll release the last bit of them.
This is sort of
anyone out there that missed the opportunity, there will be one more opportunity.
There you go. So just to reframe what he just said, if you missed your opportunity to pick up float minis, there will be a second run of those coming out shortly. Pay attention to retailers, I'm assuming, right? We're not going to be able to pick this up on Vibram site, right? It's going to be through retailers only?
Correct. And
okay.
We'll announce. The thing we're trying to do is forge a whole new dynamic with retail partnerships, and I get a report that tells me when something shipped and to whom. And
okay.
We want to announce that. We want to announce that to our public. We want to drive our consumers to our retail partners.
Yeah, absolutely.
And create business opportunities for them, because they ultimately have the ability to have that face time with the customer, where with our website we don't have that, and we want our customers serviced as an intimate setting as possible. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So those of you that are out there, let us know you're out there. Smash the like button, give it a love, or give it a smile, or give it an angry face or a cry face. I don't care. Just go ahead and smash that button and give us some reactions. Let us know that you're out there. We've got Jeff Laney from Vibram Disc Golf. It's going to be a really good conversation. We're just digging into a couple of things. We haven't even hardly got started yet here. Haven't even dug into Grip Team. So if you're just joining us, you haven't missed anything super, super important. We've just been catching up on the minis. Chris Lewandowski, you were the winner, sir, of the float mini of your choice. coming from Vibram Collector over to you, sir. Just go ahead and shoot me a PM with your address, and I will get that out to you. I greatly appreciate you sharing the podcast link last week. And, like I say, I don't have a whole lot of subscribers on YouTube. So those of you that don't subscribe to me, go hit it up and subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, all that mess, right? At Vibram Collector, it's out there. So there's my plug. All right, so continuing on, I think, are on the same page with the timeline, but refresh my memory. It's a 9-minute run, right? For disc. Is the minis, just to kind of wrap up this mini conversation, is the minis the same amount of time to cure? So I know you can't see me, Jeff, but when we're looking at this piece compared to a disc, so much less material. So how does that process work as far as timeline? Can you spit these out faster than the disc can?
Well, first off, the machine that those molds rest in, if you took a bird's eye view of it, it would look like a wheel, a wagon wheel, somewhat. And you essentially, using that wagon wheel analogy, have to wait for that spoke to come back around, which is 9 minutes. So to answer your question, it takes a certain amount of time.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Okay, all right, that's interesting. So that the fact that that's such a premium product to me is amazing. So here's what I'm going to do, Jeff. I'm just going to read, for those of you that didn't get a chance to actually see the post, I'm just going to touch on a couple of points on the post where you actually announced the grip team, and then we'll stop and chat about a couple of these points. So here's how the post goes. For those of you that didn't catch it, I will post it in this post. I'll update it, I'll edit it, and do all that stuff here in a minute while Jeff is chatting. But here's what we got. When it comes to disc golf, one of the most important aspects is grip. In 2018, we're creating a new team of people, a Vibram GRIP team. Who will make up GRIP? Grassroots, regional, intern players that are passionate about disc golf and Vibram. It goes on to say we're focusing on the players that represent the 99% of all disc golfers, the average players, above all, the players that love the sport. So let's talk about that, Jeff. I mean, when I think about Grassroots, I think about something that's brand new, and something that's starting, because there isn't any framework in place. So where's your thoughts with the Grassroots and how that kind of comes into play here, and with that being the kickoff of GRIP, how does that work with the vision?
Well, first off, for many years we've had a pro team, and the pros that have made up that team have serviced our brand well, represented our brand well, and been an asset to our business. However, in the last year as a company, we've really made a focus on all of the divisions of the company coming into one and being one Vibram. And as a result of doing that, I was at a crossroads, so to speak, with what to do with the team, because the way we have managed our pro disc golf team is completely different from the way we manage any other sponsorships or ambassador programs. And in order for us to be one Vibram, from my position, and I'm certain from those above me, I need to manage these folks in the same exact manner. And at the same time, while I can appreciate looking back, I'm a forward-looking and forward-thinking person. I wanted to present something different, a different opportunity. I see the enthusiasm for our brand that exists within the collectors group, within the group of touring professionals, within regional and localized courses and clubs. And I want to find a way to harness that love and affinity for the brand in a way that can help us grow our position within the sport. So the grassroots part of it speaks to, yes, we are doing something new and different. It actually feeds into that word intern. These are going to be 1-year positions. We're going to cycle through people and give many people an opportunity to help us grow our position within the sport of disc golf, to help spread the love. And we're going to look at geographic locations as part of the vetting process. as well as the answers to the initial questionnaire that was sent out. There will be some follow-up communications where we try to learn a little bit more about certain individuals and find out what they bring to the table that can help us. For us to continue to go down the same path is kind of insane to me, because, on our last podcast, we discussed how different Vibram is in the realm of disc golf. Many people out there listening may not know this. I am the only disc golf focused employee within the company. No other disc golf manufacturer has a workforce of one. That's not to say there aren't a number of people that support disc golf within Vibram, as there are. In fact, many and all employees do, but I am the only one whose sole focus is disc golf. And this is an opportunity for me to get in touch with a community of people that feel strongly about our brand and would love to see us grow our brand and become a brand that can be available to more and more people in more and more places. So the grassroots part of it is that there's not a blueprint for what we're doing. This truly is going to be a unique and one of a kind opportunity. And hopefully in a constant state of evolution from the contributions that the individuals help give us.
Yeah, I think that's great. One of the things that I think is really cool with doing the 1-year contracts is it keeps everything fresh. To your point, it gets new ideas, so you can take what works from the previous year, roll it over to the next year. For those folks that look long term and want to try to be part of something long term, how do you look at somebody like that and say, hey, right away, from right now, we're only going to use you for a year? Or is it one of those things you're going to review everybody for a year and somebody could potentially be on the team longer than a year?
Certainly there could be that kind of opportunity that you speak of there. And I would be foolish to say that there couldn't be. But for the larger picture, we actually want to cycle through people. But I could foresee a situation in the first few years where we could have a couple folks that hang out for a year or 2 or 3 that help us get it off the ground and help us manage it properly and create this to be an even bigger opportunity. Right now, I don't have a set number in my head of how many people will be on this team. I can tell you that we are in the neighborhood of 120 plus applications at this point, of some great individuals who have shared an affinity and love for our brand, and going to make it really tough on me to go through this and share it with some internal folks as we make the decisions. But we look forward to reaching out to everybody that applied, and one, thanking them for applying, and 2, really looking at what the opportunity is. And I would just go ahead and say ahead of time, if in the end you've applied and you do not get named to this year's team, do not let that prevent you from applying again, because you'll see throughout the year what folks are doing, and that will give you an idea of what we're looking for and how to couple that with your skill set and abilities are and what you can do to set yourself apart. And to go back to my earlier point, this is what we do with all of our ambassadors. Great individual that you're a part of this every year. And it really does keep it interesting, and it changes perspectives. Shared and it gives you an opportunity to speak to a much larger audience.
Yeah, no, I think that being able to reach a larger audience is the struggle, right? I mean, that's really where the difficulty comes in. So, I mean, trying to get to as many people as possible, I mean, you think that this approach is going to be the cleanest approach? I mean, how do you manage something like this? I think that's been a big concern. Well, it's not really our concern, but when you say that you're a one-man team, man, that's kind of scary. I mean, even if you have 20 people, 50 people, I mean, if you have 120 applicants, let's say that half of them are good, so you got 60, they're scattered all over. How does one man manage that? You're not Superman. I mean, you're an awesome guy, but you're not Superman, right?
Well, it's, to clarify, I'm the only person only focused on disc golf.
Okay.
But, this first year is going to be a manageable number. I could tell you in my head it's 20 would probably be pushing it.
Okay, so it'd be a smaller team then.
smaller team, but we have internal assets and resources that will play roles in this. And quite frankly, I have no choice but to learn from my own mistakes. This year, I am certain a great number of people on our pro team have had some frustrations with me and the company. And I don't fault them or blame them in that. I went in a little naive on how to manage the team, and in some senses, I failed them, and that created a learning opportunity. But by no means is this new direction a reflection of anything anybody has or hasn't done. This is in alignment with what we as a company do with all of our ambassadors. And that program is already successful, and that blueprint is already built. So all I have to do is plug disc golf into it. So it makes the job of managing this much easier.
Yeah.
But there will be pretty structured communications, again, drawing from that blueprint that we already have in existence for our current ambassador program when it comes to footwear and five fingers. I have a wonderful opportunity to really learn from what I've done and learn from what we do with others, and more importantly, learn from the individuals that make up our grip team.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you talk about the, just regular communication with something like that, I'm naive to how disc golf works with regards to, the relationships with teams, with vendors, and that sort of thing. How are these communications typically delivered? Is most of this stuff via email, or do you guys have like conference calls to where you have trainings and things like that? How does this world work? I come from a consulting world, so we do everything online, but we're constantly on the phone.
Well, it's, to this point, I'm going to speak more about what we'll do in the future, and that is we're going to leverage technology. And the individuals that we choose, most of them will have a strong aptitude in using technology, because that's going to be a cheap tool that we do use. And we will create those opportunities to educate folks and get them in alignment. There will be literature that will be available to them in hard copies that will be part of their initial package that they receive, as well as, in my mind, quarterly training opportunities.
Okay, so when you talk about quarterly training opportunities and you start talking to the Vibram community, I think people will immediately start thinking, man, does this mean I get to go to the warehouse? I know that for me, that's on my bucket list, right? So how do you envision this working? I mean, is this something that, people are going to be reviewing training documents, online, or is it going to be virtual trainings, somebody just kind of talking through some stuff?
We're going to leverage technology. I don't have the budget to fly folks to the factory, and we just don't have the means to make a system like that work, no matter how neat that would be for everybody. But this could lay the groundwork for that in the future and create that kind of opportunity. But we're going to spend a lot of phone time with one another. There'll be some individual opportunities as well as group opportunities. And this is me reaching out to a community for help to grow our business, help to put this brand in a position to be successful within the sport of disc golf.
Hey, that's cool. I think that's good. So with the, just what you mentioned earlier, that you feel like, you failed some of the past team, and, really the next part of this deliverable was this new team will replace 3 previous teams: Team Vibram, Tester Team, Street Team. The new grip team will cycle its members yearly. They will be Vibram Ambassadors to the sport of disc golf. So when we look at those past 3 teams, I know myself personally, I was on the Tester team, which was awesome. But I didn't get a lot of tester items as we all anticipated, that got part of the team at the Birdie Bash Worlds. But I don't think that's a failure on your part. I don't know that Street Team. I'm not sure that Street Team has been something that any of us has really looked at recently or heard from recently. But with Team Vibram, I'm assuming you mean the pros, guys like Vinny Miller, Jeremy Mount, Chris, those guys that were out there playing the tournaments, that sort of thing. what do you think as far as going forward? Are these guys going to be able to be involved? I mean, are you giving them the opportunity to be part of this as well?
Well, to speak to, I'll back up. I didn't inherit a tester team or the street team. Those are previous entities, but we still want to acknowledge the fact that those did exist. Whether they were current or not. And to speak to the current team, this opportunity is open to everybody, but I don't want to be misleading. This in no way is a pro team and a pro sponsorship. Okay. And we are not focusing on pros whatsoever. We're focusing on people that, as it calls out, people that love our brand and want to represent our brand and help us grow our position within the sport of disc golf. And that's where the opportunity with this lies. We aren't looking for folks that need help in entering tournaments, that want to increase their exposure as pro players. That's not going to be our focus. Again, we are a different company, and in order for us to be successful, we need to change the blueprint and start operating in a way that fits our company dynamic much better. And that's what this opportunity does. And the proof's in the pudding. It already works within our footwear division, so we know it works. Okay. And I'm sure you can ask any current pro player, our current pro system doesn't work to help them in the way they need help. And for them, that's very frustrating. And I completely understand their frustration. And, if I could, I would take a moment to acknowledge, Bob Graham, Casey Lee, Chase Hayden, Chris Dietzel, Fred Smith, Greg Wintrobe, Jeremy Mount, Joe Gustafson, Mike Olsey, Mitch Sonderfan, Naved Hasnain, Ross Branch, Sean Jack, Tim Walsh, Toad McReynolds, Vinnie Miller, Wendy Booten, Evan Jones, Ben Kroll. Those are all people that were part of the previous team when I came aboard. And to them, I have nothing but respect. But I can't move forward and mismanage their hopes and mismanage their opportunities because it doesn't fit within our business portfolio and dynamic and what we're trying to do and accomplish. We want to focus on the 99% player. We want to focus on the everyday players, the players that create an opportunity for us to help share and grow the love of disc golf and the sport of disc golf, and those folks who are wanting to be educated and influenced on new products, new techniques, how to play, where to play, who to find to go play. Those are the opportunities that we want to focus on, as well as people that want to go in and speak to retail opportunities for us, people that want to help us open accounts, people that want to help us be successful in maintaining those accounts, and people that would like to see Vibram disc golf discs provided in a number of new retailers where we haven't previously been able to be purchased. We have plans for the future for some exciting new things, and if we continue to just limit who those products are available through, we limit who can purchase them, and that's not fair to a larger audience.
So I think one of the things that I think about just going down that line is when you talk about retailers, I could kind of tell that your angle is a little bit different than where I was focused. So when you're talking about retailers, my initial thought was, oh, it's just disc golf stores, it's just disc golf online, it's those sorts of things. But it sounds like you mean even just retailers that might just be willing to throw some discs on the shelf then that may not necessarily be only disc golf. Is that kind of where your thoughts are with that?
Well, we're a unique brand, and our product, it never ceases to amaze me what kind of businesses are applying to be a Vibram dealer. And I think we can all be jaded by our geographic region and those experiences. I was shocked to travel to Oklahoma and go into a gas station where a third of their square footage was devoted to disc golf. I had never seen anything like that. I had never seen a pro shop. The courses I grew up playing are all public, and I went to disc golf specific retailers, or those that sold disc golf discs and croquet sets and some other unique items, but largely focused on outdoor entertainment, casual games. And we're finding there's vape shops that are devoting a great number of space to disc golf. We have an account in, I believe, Evansville, Indiana, that is a hardware store, and there are a lot of those. We have a moving and storage company in Indiana that also has disc golf. So, it's hard for me in my position living in Idaho to find all these unique locations. It's also hard for our 5 dedicated brand reps to do the same. You take Jonah Salloway as an example, who is our South Central rep. Jonah lives in New Mexico. His territory is New Mexico, Texas, Missouri, Kansas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. I don't think I left anything out there. That's a pretty big territory, and it is unrealistic to expect him to, considering that disc golf is a small part of our portfolio, to be able to justify driving to the small little towns in Kansas that present great disc golf opportunities.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's why we want this to be 1-year internships, because there are people in small towns everywhere that can help us, and we want to acknowledge them and give them an opportunity and let them feel like they're a part of something, and actually be a part of something and play critical roles in the future, down the road, the development of new products, the development of new items from our company, and the ability to grow our brand.
All right. So with that, you brought up a couple of points, and I'll not be able to touch on all of them immediately, but I'll circle around to them. But one of the things that you mentioned was, the retailers and going into the retailers and having those conversations. For me, that requires a very special type of person to have those conversations, to feel comfortable. At what level do you anticipate these folks working towards? Are they going to be negotiating the contracts with these retailers, or they'll just be walking in, introducing the brand and saying, hey, call this dude if you're serious, that sort of thing?
It's more of an introductory.
Okay, cool.
It's giving us the chance to find out who these people are and where they're at.
Okay, cool.
Without divulging some details that'll be intimate with the grip positions, depending on where a grip member is located, they will have business cards for the affiliated brand rep for that territory. And, the follow-up will be them making that brand rep aware of where they went and who they spoke to. And from that, if things come to fruition, then there will be a monetary opportunity for those folks.
I think that's awesome. Monetary opportunity is always a good thing, right? At least for me, people have an opportunity to make some funds, however that's out there. So is that something that, I don't know how contracts work with disc golf, but I know obviously this is different in that it's opening the door for, folks like myself that may not be a pro, that may not, have that ability to be 1,000 rated player and to travel and to play disc golf full time. But it sounds like, there's still an opportunity for me to, if I was to apply, do this thing, I could actually, supplement, maybe make a little bit of cash. How does that differ as far as, what's traditional? Does a normal player out there make money doing with a typical contract?
Well, I can't really speak for what the other brands do.
Okay.
But within our brand, there are incentives for the current pros based off of results and payouts that are based thereof. And, that's the focus on a pro player. And while for many brands and even ourselves previously, that was important and something that we needed to do, moving forward, it doesn't fit into the one Vibram mold of management and the way that we work in other avenues within our business. And it certainly doesn't create an opportunity for us to increase our ability to open new doors, because let's face it, a pro needs to be concentrating on getting to events and practicing. Most of these pros have full-time jobs, so they have a very limited time set to focus on the brand and still get out there and play and still practice and still have their family lives.
Sure.
And it's too much to ask for a pro sponsorship of this position. And, that led to part of this decision. That and the obvious reason of us wanting this to be managed in the same way that we manage all other ambassador opportunities.
Yeah, that's cool. What kind of dog you got, man?
I've got a black lab puppy.
All right. Impatient. I've got a small dog. She's just under 2 years old, and if she was in here, she'd be driving me nuts too. So I understand that completely. I think it's cute.
Yeah, I'm home alone right now, so he's used to going for a hike around this time of day, so
I gotcha.
he's a little animated.
I gotcha. Well, we just let him know it'll be just a little bit later hike today, but we'll still get him out there, right?
Yeah.
I hear you. So when we talk about the next part that was on this email, or really on the Facebook post, we went over the fact that you don't have to be a professional rated player, don't have to be at sanctioned events. But it says, what will you need to do? You'll need to promote at your local course, at your local shops, at clinics, and at Vibram GRIP events. I think the social media makes sense. Local course makes sense. You talked about the local shops. Give me a little bit of background on where your thoughts are with the clinics and the GRIP events. What's that mean exactly?
Well, a clinic is going in and educating sales staff on product and giving them a better background on how to sell the product and what sets us apart from other discs within the disc golf realm. So, that's the opportunity a clinic really is you're speaking to the audience that's selling the discs and creating an opportunity for them to get jazzed about the brand and to become more educated in how to sell it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
A clinic is something that happens, and again, we have a blueprint for this because we already do this with footwear as well. We go to RE, for those that are on there, REI is an easy one to grasp. We give REI staff clinics on 5 fingers and on soling compounds so that they can better sell and speak to our brand with confidence.
With the soling and the shoe, the shoe teams, what how you said it was going to be a small team for disc golf. How many folks do you have out there as far as brand reps for the shoes?
That's a good question.
You got a ballpark? Like, is it like 40, 50 or?
Roughly 20.
Oh, okay. So it's a pretty small team then too.
It is. That's not to say we actually have professional athletes that train in 5 fingers that can't really advertise they train in 5 fingers because they're endorsed by other brands. And that speaks to how great of a product that is. And it also speaks to how in tune they are with their training. And, that's something that, those are opportunities we really can't capitalize on as a result of that because of the ramifications of that. So the folks that we do have are all on our website on us.vibram.com. And they're our ambassador team. And there's some well-known names, some former professional athletes like Brian Bosworth that are a part of our ambassador team. And, if you look at that audience, I mean, they're very influential people, and they actually, all of them have pretty large followings of people behind them too.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that you can get that's got a little bit of a following is going to be a huge plus. So with that being the case, I mean, you talk about the love of the sport, but let's say that you've got somebody out there that, may not be that much of a disc golf guy, but just loves Vibram. Like, let's say that we had somebody that saw this podcast that just happened to love Vibram 5 fingers and wanted to learn a little bit more about disc golf and try to push that brand. Is that something that you feel like, the training that's going to go behind this to get people out there on the street would support folks like that? Or is this somebody that's really going to have to know disc golf really well?
I think it's going to be a combination. It really has to be people that are enthusiastic about the brand, that feel strongly that our brand is underrepresented in the marketplace, and have unique skills and abilities already built in within their own makeup that can help us take those next steps. And then what we're going to be offering is the fine tuning. But for this initial start at it, and that's part of our vetting process. If you can't answer to completion the questions on the form, then at this point in time, it's probably not going to be an opportunity. However, if you're deficient in one area and proficient in another area, that can offset that. So sure. I go into this with an open mind, and I'm not biased in any way. I'm not looking at the name when I'm looking at the application. I'm looking at location, because that will play a role at some point. But I'm looking at how they answer things.
Sure.
And trying to vet from that what kind of opportunity they see this as.
Yeah. I think that's fair, because I mean, you want somebody that's excited about the opportunity. Do you feel like what's out there in this, couple paragraph post is enough to really explain the opportunity, though? I mean, from what I think that's what a lot of people have questions on, right? I think that because it's so different, there's a lot of questions out there as far as, how will this, free shirts, free swag, free discs, discount cards, and chance to earn cash. I know that you can't give all the details of the contract, but is that something that once this team is selected, they will be given these tools up front to then go attack the market? Or is this something that you envision, hey, let's see what you're doing, and then we'll kind of reward you after? Has that...
Well, you couldn't send a carpenter to build a house without a hammer, a saw, and a nail apron and a level. So I wouldn't expect these people to help us build our brand without the right tools. So we will arm them with the physical assets they need, as well as the intellectual assets that they need. Because we are a pinnacle brand, we're not going to let anybody just roll out there and talk about the brand free-willing. There will be specific language. There will be things that can be addressed and things that can't be addressed. And there will be a way to defer those things that can't be addressed to somebody that can address them. We're not going to put people in a position to fail. This is only about success. And, I would say, it sounds as if there's people that have questions. There are over 120 that haven't. They've applied. It hasn't even been a week yet. So, there's some competition out there. And if you keep asking questions and hesitating, know that more people are applying. And don't let an opportunity that you feel strongly about pass you by overthinking it.
I love that, man. We'll take a quick second to break here and thank you for being here and answering these questions. And I love the way that you put that, because it's true. There's 120 people that have applied. Obviously, that's a decent population to work from, given the size that you're looking for. For those of you that haven't been watching and just joining us, we've got Jeff Laney, Vibram Disc Golf, going over the grip team details. Well, not all the details, but as much as he'll allow me to pull out of them and reword questions and that sort of thing. He's pretty good with that, though, guys, so there's not too much I'm going to be able to do. But we've got a lot of questions out there on social media that are circling around. Thanks again, guys, for being out there. Smash the like button, give a love, do whatever you got to do to let your friends know that we're out here chatting up Vibram Disc Golf. I think this is a huge opportunity for folks out there that go to the course every day. You just love being out there, and you've told your friends at work, and you dragged your friends at work. You've grabbed your family, you brought them out there, you told your brother, you told your cousins. Everybody knows that you're playing disc golf now, and you're sharing the love that you're playing disc golf. All Jeff is asking you to do is get super excited, which most of you probably already are anyway if you're watching this podcast, to just get super excited about pushing Vibram Disc Golf, which is what you're doing anyway. So go to the website, which I'll post here once the podcast is done, because I forgot to put in the original link there. But go apply for the grip team. Tell your story. Give Jeff some details. Answer the survey. If you don't know about the survey, big deal. You don't know all the answers, but go to the bottom and explain why you're a disc golf guy and why you should be a good choice. This is something
honestly,
everybody
that's the most
should be out
important
there.
Question.
Say that again, Jeff.
The bottom of the survey are the most important parts of the survey, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. In your own words.
Because it lets me know who you are. And, I have to tell you, part of this was born out of watching the activity on the collectors group and watching what some of this audience does without provocation, without recognition from Vibram. And I'm floored by it. And I want to emulate it. I want to grow it. I want to seed it as far as I can, because there are people out there that have the answers, and I see it in their behaviors.
Yeah.
And this is a way to let them actually be a part of it. And my hope and belief is their love and appreciation for our brand is going to grow even more, and their investment is going to grow even more. And let's shoot for the moon here. In reality, what I want to create is a sales force at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I believe we make the best products in the marketplace, and we have the ability to make even better products. And we want to realize those opportunities, but it takes people, and who better to find those people? Where better to find them than from this audience that they're already in existence. They just haven't been engaged in this way.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, that makes complete sense. And it's true. I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, I'm going to bring his name up. I brought him up at the beginning of the podcast. I mean, Bradley Bramlett's been doing a lot of stuff in the group just to show that he loves the group, just to show that he loves the people. I mean, it has nothing to do with him getting anything out of it necessarily. But it just makes him feel good. I mean, he's a great dude. I've never even met him, but I'm definitely giving him a big hug the first time I see him. But he's been sending out a bunch of minis and stuff like that. So you got guys like that, in my opinion, I'm pushing for him. I hope that he gets to be part of this because I think he's doing awesome stuff already. But let's say that you've got somebody, one of the questions that kind of cycled around multiple times was retailers. How are retailers involved? What can retailers do? Let's say we've got somebody out there. I mean, we've got a handful of retailers that are pushing the brand on their own, but they're not part of, any type of other team. Is that somebody that you would consider, or are you trying to keep the retailers separated from this grip team vision?
My preference would be to keep them separated, but as I said, especially the way they answer those questions on the bottom of the form might have everything to do with me being able to overlook that.
Okay. Awesome.
The interesting thing in that is, we're going to be asking people to help us grow our opportunities. I believe in small retail, always have, grew up, cut my teeth in retail. And I believe a disc golf retailer can help another disc golf retailer. And there's more to be gained by them helping rather than trying to cutthroat each other. So, if you are a savvy retailer and you see this as an opportunity, not just to help your own business, but to help our brand, which in turn helps your business, then by all means, do not hesitate to apply and let me know what you think you can do from your experience and your position that can help us.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's awesome, man. I mean, give them at least the chance to state their case, right? I mean, you can't be any more fair than that.
I would be a fool to turn a deaf ear on somebody that has good ideas.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So those of you out there that are, pushing things in the group, and I know quite a few of you retailers that I message with from time to time and try to convince you to do giveaways for the group and stuff. Jeff is telling you that you can be part of this vision. You can apply and try to go that extra level. So not only can you be a retailer, but you can also go the extra level and say, hey, not only am I a retailer, but I'll help you engage other retailers and do, events in the area and, work these clinics. I think that's great. And, putting league and all that type stuff. So do you envision, let's say that me, and I'm going to give you kind of a scenario story, and hopefully you can follow me because I'm a bad storyteller from time to time. But let's say that I'm one of these guys on the grip team. I go and I want to just, start getting to where I want to do a weekly event or a monthly event or whatever, and I want to sponsor something on a regular basis. Do you envision that this would be something that would fit into this kind of, into the grip team focus? So if I wanted to do a monthly, tournament, I know that you probably hear of the Heiser tournaments, the big Heiser tournaments that go around the regional. Would that be something that you would look at, or do you think that your grip events would probably cover some of the actual sponsored events from Vibram's side?
Well, first, we're going to use the word grip going forward. This goes back to One Vibram. We want to drive everything back to soling. We're a soling company first and foremost.
Okay.
That makes us unique in disc golf.
Yep.
People walk all over us every day and do so reliably.
Yep.
And we want to play on that word wherever and whenever we can. We are going to be announcing in the coming weeks kind of a loose announcement on GRIP events. GRIP events will be performed in conjunction with GRIP team players and or brand reps and myself, but also at or with key retail partners. I envision no two events will ever be alike, and we're going to cater these to fit the needs and the business parameters of those key retail partners. And we're going to strategically start with some selective partners initially that we have strong relationships with, and then we're going to share this opportunity with a much larger audience. But to answer the question directly, I really can't, because one, I don't know what my budget for next year is at this point.
Okay.
And we would need to quantify how do we gauge a return on that kind of investment and what that investment is. But as I said, I plan on surrounding myself with up to a couple dozen very smart people that can help formulate some ideas and plans. And it would be my hope that, to be solution oriented. Let's go back to your scenario. Perhaps the way that works is using you as the example, Todd. I say, well, let's work with your local Vibram disc golf retailer on this event. Let's split those expenses, but let's do what we can to help their business and help the local disc golf scene and help them become more entrenched in it.
Yeah, I think that's the key, right? Getting these guys excited to run an event, but to do it with a little bit of support is, I have, the only event that I've ever run has been a birdie bash myself, and I had an absolute blast doing it. So I'm not experienced as far as a TD is concerned, but I can't imagine that it's easy to walk up to a disc golf company and say, hey, I want you to be the main sponsor of this event. Do you see, obviously we had the Vibram Open, but, with that, do you feel like that's going to be something that will be 2018, or will that be back down the road again before we see Vibram Disc Golf as a headliner for a tournament?
We are not going to focus on pros. We're going to focus on everyday players going forward.
Okay.
They make up the majority. And our business, let's face it, we have 17 molds. We offer them in 7 colors. We're a very small company. And if we're going to properly allocate our funds and help grow our position and potentially be able to look at getting a better return for pro sponsorship in the future, we have to grow our position first. So for the immediate future, we're going to focus on everyday players, and we're going to focus on supporting those everyday players through regional grassroots events, through our retail partners. And by no means will these events all be tournaments per se. We're going to offer the opportunity to really be thinking outside the box too. Anything we can do to get a disc in a hand and have people work.
Heck yeah.
I've seen putting leagues at breweries be very effective. So I don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into it actually has to be an event. I also foresee a future where, churches and organizations and companies could have disc golf events in their parking lots for team building opportunities. And why wouldn't we want to be a part of some of those down the road? It builds an affiliation with our brand with those people, and it exposes a larger audience to disc sports.
Yeah, I think that's key, and I'm glad to hear you say that, because I know if you had an opportunity to tune into podcast 13, I had a conversation with Ben Overbeek, who is huge in the Vibram Disc Golf community, I feel, and he's one of the admins of the Vibram Disc Golfer group, and really is a colleague of mine in a lot of ways, and I say colleague just because he helps me do work, and the fact that I'm setting up these podcasts and stuff, he's been a huge help for me testing all that. But he brought up a lot of really strong concerns that even myself has, as being a dad and having young kids. He's concerned that the typical environment of a tournament or hosting a big event just doesn't fit with his world because he's a teacher and he has kids that he's teaching disc golf to. So he may not necessarily be pushing Vibram disc golf to those folks. So he was concerned that, he may not even be a good fit because he's not going to walk up to somebody and say, hey, go, to a mom or a dad, go buy Vibram disc golf. He's just saying, hey, I want your kid to love disc golf. How do we address folks like that and say, hey, here's how Vibram can help support you in that statement and in that mission?
At this time, I really couldn't answer that question directly because some of that will be in the contract language. But, regretfully, when I look at that particular scenario, we are going to have folks that are representing our brand. And this, again, being solution oriented, the solution very well could be whether it's Ben or if it's not him and it's somebody else in his area that is a GRIP team member. Perhaps they come to that audience and they speak to that audience with him, and he just kind of presents the opportunity for a GRIP team member to come and do that.
Sure.
It still gives the opportunity to put discs in the hand. Obviously you're not going to make a sales pitch to that kind of audience that's brand centric.
Yeah.
But you are going to highlight, the fact that all the discs provided for the event are Vibram discs, and there would be some Vibram swag, and it would definitely have a feeling of a Vibram event, but we're not going to be there to brainwash them to only think of Vibram when they think of disc golf. We want them to walk away thinking that was really cool. I learned a lot about disc golf, and I learned Vibram is an important brand when it comes to disc golf.
Hey, you know what though, man? I like it because, you're not telling me that this is for everybody, which is what I think that the initial statement and the way that it rolls out almost frames it that anybody can apply. It's for everybody, but it's really not, right? It's not going to be a good fit for everybody to do this GRIP team. And that's just a fact. You're going to have to, it's like I tell people in sales, when I was a salesman years ago, I had my team and I would tell them, you have to actually go sell. You're going to have to pick up the phone and have a conversation. You're going to have to go to a course and push the brand. You're not going to be able to say that you're part of a team just to say that you're part of a team. You're actually going to have to do some work. So that transitioned me to a question with regard to social media. There was a question that popped up in the group here. For those guys that don't really have a really strong social media presence, they're on social media, they're part of the Vibram Disc Golf Collectors group, for example, but they're not really, they're not a freak like me that's going out and just has no problem putting his face out there every day and talking to people and all that. They just love the brand and would probably be just good guys just on the course. I mean, are those people that are being considered, or is social media going to be a pretty big part of this?
Again, those last two questions are really where it's all at. As I said, you could be, again, we're looking at skill sets here. So this isn't a personal direction when I say this. You could be deficient in certain areas as an individual and make up for that with proficiencies elsewhere.
Sure. And,
using that as an example, you could be deficient with social media skills. I, for one, do not have an active Facebook account. It's just not something I'm into.
That's cool.
But you could make up for that in more ways than one. And I would say, give me examples, cite reasons, differentiate yourself. Give us a reason to say, hey, you know what? This person's not strong in social media, but they're strong at doing this. And this is important. This is important. That's why we're saying it is for everybody. It's for everybody in that it's not just pigeonholed into one group of people. It's for the larger group of people. But when you break it down on an individual basis, yes, it's not for everybody, because it's ultimately it's people that want to see our brand grow, people that don't mind having conversations about our brand. Perhaps you're not strong on social media, but perhaps you travel. I'll use the area I grew up in because, Kentucky has the third most counties of any state.
Does it really? Okay.
Yeah, you could sneeze.
Interesting fact here, folks. There you go. Kentucky has the third most counties.
Might be fourth, but it's top four. It's like 151 counties.
Okay.
You could sneeze and be in another county. You could be somebody there that's
a little gerrymandering going on over there, huh?
that you're not into social media, and you know what? I don't blame you. That's cool. But you may travel a 5 or 6 county radius on a regular basis, playing a dozen to a dozen and a half courses on a regular basis where people know you by name.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's an influencer. That's somebody that's important.
Yeah,
now the thing to do, or what I would be looking for out of that individual, is how do you quantify that in words to me so that I can understand the value you bring, and that's where individual skill set is important. You know, how do you portray your value to me so that I can clearly understand it? And make no mistake about it, we'll have other follow-up questions as we start drilling this large group down. You know, so that we make sure we're vetting the right people, and we make sure that we're putting people in a position to be successful, and that we make sure, again, learning from my mistakes with the current pro team, make sure that we can deliver on what we set out to do, and not setting anybody up for failure from either side of the table.
Yeah, I think I mean, that you can't really put it much better. I mean, you want everybody to be successful. I mean, but one thing that you brought up is, you know, you talked about narrowing this list down. You know, you mentioned around 120 applications. That was before tonight. So I'm assuming that those folks that may have been on the fence, you know, getting some answers from you tonight, will hopefully move forward and complete their application. But one thing that kind of transitioned me to that was a question that I don't remember who presented it, but one of the questions was, is there going to be multiple levels to the grip team concept? And if so, how do you envision that breakdown to be? Like, will there be, you know, hierarchy, like this guy's a senior dude and this guy's a junior guy, or it's going to be a flat look, you think?
Well, it's a team, and to me, a team, everybody has an equal part and an equal role. But you know, the big thing is we're managing this the same way that we manage all of our other ambassador programs, and in that, everybody is an equal player. Now within that statement, there's also differentiating factors, because again, everybody has a different skill set that's on our current footwear ambassador team, and that's what we want to focus on and hone on. If using you as an example, Todd, and me as an example, it wouldn't make sense for us to say, between the two of us, let's manage Jeff on social media and Todd on door-to-door sales, when in fact the opposite would be the better statement. Let's have Todd manage social media and Jeff do door-to-door sales.
Right.
That fits their skill set, their availability much better. I don't have kids. I don't have that commitment. So I have the time to go do that, where for you, it's much easier to be at home. And that's, again, where we want to put people in positions to be successful, and for this to actually be something that they want to be a part of, and that they feel engagement, that they feel acknowledgement. At the same time, we want to give them some autonomy so that they have the ability to inflect their own personal skills and personality into this too, so that it's not a door-to-door salesman opportunity. And it's, again, you know, I don't envision a situation where somebody's going to go in and review our entire line of discs. We're not going to be asking that.
Right.
You know, this is more about, again, I'll use that example of a guy in Kentucky going county to county. He's going to play Idlewild, and he pops in a disc shop in Florence, Kentucky, and says, "Hey, I noticed you don't have any Vibram discs. What gives? You know, are people coming in and asking for them?" Just engaging in some simple conversations, and maybe there's a set of 2 or 3 questions that can help us better understand that retailer. And then that individual would leave a business card that would likely have their name and the Vibram brand rep's name. And then they would follow up with that Vibram brand rep and say, "Hey, I just stopped in this disc store in Florence, Kentucky, and I spoke to so-and-so. You know, he had this to say and this to say, and I told him to expect to hear from you soon. Keep me in the loop. Let me know how it goes." And, you know, that, and then, you know, in a perfect world, that would lead to an account being open, which there would be some sort of kickback on. and then we would want to keep that relationship going. So, anytime that individual goes in there and we get a subsequent order or our business grows, we're going to acknowledge that.
What about the folks that aren't comfortable going to a retailer, but they go to a lot of local events and they do the weeklies? Like here in Charlotte, they have weeklies. I mean, we call them weeklies, but they're every day of the week. Like there's literally a disc golf, a mini tournament every single day of the week. It just depends on where you feel like driving to. So with circumstances like that where you have the folks, I mean, I know there's a lot of guys here locally that go to every single one of those events. Every day of the week they're going and doing something else, but they may not necessarily go and talk to a retailer. Are they going to have the ability, you think, of having that same sort of, kickback concept that says, hey, I've got business cards with my, whatever, I'm 007. So I'm code 007, right? So, every time you see 007 come across, that somebody talked to me to buy a disc. I mean, is that something that those folks will be able to capitalize on, that type of structure, I guess, too?
First off, you're a man after my heart using the 007 reference. I'm a huge Bond fan.
Right on, man.
I wanted to name my dog Bond. My wife would have none of it. Yes, we will have a mechanism in place for that. And that's how our current structure with our brand ambassadors works. But we're going to modify it a little bit for disc golf as well, so that there is additional opportunities, not just the one opportunity of handing out a card with a code that goes to our website. Yeah,
that's fair. There's a lot of conversation. I mean, people were really getting in on this conversation about, starting them young and the grassroots concept and getting kids involved. We talked about this a little bit on the last podcast, and we talked about how the cost is what it is, and it's difficult to get the cost down. But do you envision, with this, the grip events coming forward, a lot of people love the Birdie Bash because it allowed these guys to introduce it to kids because it was such a simple concept and it was cost effective as well. I know it's difficult to manage, but do you envision this new grip event coming forward? That's something that guys like this that are really hot about trying to get kids involved, will they be able to use this grip event to do that?
Well, first and foremost, it would, that's going to depend on the local retail partnerships, because, the grip events will work through them. Without a retail partner, there won't be one.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
What we want to be doing is supporting retailers. Again, we want to do something different that nobody else is doing. Yeah. And we're not going to follow a set of rules. But we also believe in making the sport accessible to youth. My wife is a teacher, so I feel very strongly about that. And there'll be more to come on some of the levers that we'll have to pull in doing that. But I would say stay tuned. 2018, I'm not going to be misleading. We're not going to introduce a bunch of new molds. We're going to introduce some other stuff that's going to have people pretty excited, and that could be from the appearance of our products to the cost of our products.
Awesome. Well, the appearance of the products has been a big thorn in the side of the majority of the collectors out there. We fell in love with the uniqueness and the funkiness, but then they came out with solids. But I think solids still, appeal to the mass market because, the majority of other discs are solids as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But you talk about going through retailers. So if I'm hearing this correctly, somebody like Ben O would be able to talk to his retailer and say, hey, I want to do this grip event, but I want it geared towards women and kids. So I only want to get the Onyx, the Valley, the Vamp, Summits, and Ridges, and the Launch and the Ibex. Those are the only molds I'm concerned with, and can I get them in lightweights? Is that something he would be able to do?
Without, short of saying yes, because we're not there yet, that is a workable scenario.
Okay, cool.
There would be levers that need to be pulled within that, and it would need to fit, and it would need to be within our budget and how we're allocating those funds. But that's the very kind of event we want to be a part of.
Okay, cool. So
and the thing about having that retailer there is it's twofold. One, they are purveyors and protectors of our brand. So they can speak as experts, and that's what we want. But more importantly, they are the local presence for disc golf. So we're trying to strengthen the bond between the retailers and those that are getting discs in their hand to go out and play. And in many cases, new people, people with unfound and unrealized skill sets and potentials, because they need to know who those experts are and where to go. And I can't tell you how many times I'm surprised that I get a submission from somebody saying, hey, I'm new to disc golf. I don't know where to find discs locally. And I can just, without even looking, know exactly who the local retailer is, whether they're a Vibram dealer or not. And that, to me, speaks of just tremendous opportunity.
So when you talk about a local retailer, let's say that, I've got a retailer that's willing to travel. So I'm buddies with a guy, that is a retailer out of state, or he's a retailer that's 3-4 hours away, but he's willing to support me in this event. We're cool with that? Or are you trying to truly keep it like, if I want to run an event, you would want me to talk to somebody in Charlotte to support that event?
We want it to affect the local scene, because we want to create a strong foundation. And while I certainly don't want to say no, I'm not a big fan of saying no. I would find a workable solution. If there were absolutely none, we would look at what are the extreme alternatives.
Okay. So let me frame this question then. With the focus being on local retailers, local events, and kind of spreading wide, grassroots, that sort of thing, is there a concept or a vision for a world championships sort of conglomeration after these events? So like how the Birdie Bash had, basically one big event that it all led up to. Is this grip event going to be a series like that?
I just stated that I don't like saying no. So let me think of how I want to answer this.
Budget pending.
No. Here's the thing. We don't want to follow a mold that somebody else has already created. That's not fair to anybody.
But the Birdie Bash was awesome, though, man. The Worlds was pretty awesome.
It was, but that was at its time and place.
Okay.
The '68 Rally Sport Yinko was also awesome, but thankfully they only made them then. I think that we would be foolish to try to revisit something that Steve did so well, and and try to emulate something somebody else has done. Keep in mind to something I said earlier in the conversation, and that is no two of these are going to be the same, and there is no blueprint. The only thing that will be the same is the word grip. So, you may find a situation where it's a parking lot glow event. You may find another situation where it's too windy and the weather doesn't allow, but it's an opportunity to do an indoor putting league event somewhere. We are going to be open to the ideas, but the big thing is initially, these are all going to be through our retailers. Okay. This isn't going to be open to the public per se. If the public has ideas and they want to take them to their local retailers, I think that's a great way to start building these relationships. But ultimately, we want to go to our key retail partners initially for these first few events and say, what would you like to do that's unique? What is within what's your dream event? It does. Let's not even have parameters. It does not have to take place at a disc golf course. Let's wipe everything off the table of what everybody else does, and let's say, what is your dream disc golf event, and how can we be a part of that, and how can we form a partnership through the event? How can we market it? Who's our target audience, and what does it take to pull this off?
Yeah.
And you're going to find those needs are different everywhere. You may find a retailer say, hey, look, I have this tech company that's been coming in and hounding me for the last 3 years, wanting to do something, and I hate to keep using this word, but wants to do something in their parking lot for their employees. And they have 6,000 employees. Let's do something with them. Okay, that's something that's different and unique. We don't want to do the same thing. That's not to say we're not going to be doing tournaments or events that are local, but they're not going to be pro events. and they're going to be open events that anybody can be a part of.
I think that's cool. So would these be PDGA sanctioned and all that? I mean, will that flexibility be there?
That's going to depend on what that retailer wants to do.
Okay, cool. So
just know there's more cost with that, so that limits the number of we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. So with this, is there any vision around it being a 2-disc package or a 3-disc package? Nothing, huh? So a little bit of flexibility. So let's see what's out there and see what retailers want to participate in. I like that because that gives somebody like, the other night we were talking to Michael Taliaferro from Disc Bite, and then we also talked to Brad Silvers, who is, for all accounts, in the middle of nowhere from, it sounds like, with regards to having access to retailers that carry Vibram. So this would be something that he'd be able to go into that local retailer that doesn't carry Vibram and say, hey, look, dude, this is a great way for you to test this product out. Run a Vibram event. You stock 100 discs, but you get rid of, call it 60 at the event, and then you can, see how it's a great tester, right?
It is. And, you kind of hit the nail on the head with a great scenario there. And, again, I don't mean to sound negative in any of those responses, but we really don't want there to be a blueprint for this.
Yeah,
there will be in a sense, but I don't want people thinking of these in terms, and we'll fine tune it as we announce it more and more. But, initially we're going to partner with key retailers so that they can help us better define what some of the parameters would be. And after we've done a few, then we'll be able to offer it to an even larger audience. But initially it's going to be with the support of our retailers, our GRIP team members, our brand reps, and or myself. And we're going to make sure that between the retailer and either the brand rep, the GRIP team member, myself, that there's 2 different entities there supporting the brand, so that we have the ability to make sure we get maximum impact out of the opportunity. But, we really want to follow rule number 1 and have fun. And to me, a lot of times when you get the PDGA involved, who's a great organization, we make it inaccessible to a large number of people, and we don't want to do that. We want this sport to be accessible, to be that vehicle that helps them recognize that, and then for them, through continued play and growth of skill, to pursue those PDGA events and to take those next steps if that's what they desire. But keep in mind, the larger number of people may play disc golf a great part of their life and never play in a PDGA event.
Yeah, no, I played in PDGA event and it was a joke. I'm not good enough, right? And the majority of the people that you see on the course aren't good enough to be in an event. I've got a buddy of mine I was messaging with the other day, and we were talking about it being PDGA events, and he's like, I don't have a PDGA number because it's the amount of tournaments I play a year. It's worth the extra $10 to just pay the extra $10 for the tournament than it is to pay for the annual membership, right? I think there's a lot of folks out there like that.
What if you could pay to get a number in the NFL and show up and play in a game? Do you think that'd be fun?
Yeah, right.
It wouldn't. You would have the experience of saying you did it, and that's about it. You might not even remember it being football. But and that's a harsh extreme to compare it to. But for a lot of people, that's what their PDGA experience is, and that's why we want to focus on a large audience of people that play every day. When you're on a course at a given moment in the summer at its peak hours, and there are several dozen, if not 100 people out there, what percentage of them are pros versus Joes and Jills?
Yeah, for sure.
And
the pros always play with the pros anyway, right? Very rarely are they going to intermingle with us, little guys on the course, right? Scrubs,
and it's understandable. I would not want to go play in a pro basketball pickup game.
That's why I have no disc golf friends, y'all. I'm not good enough.
I always appreciate playing with people that are better than me because that's a great learning opportunity. But if you did that every time you played, you'd get frustrated pretty quick.
Oh yeah, absolutely, no doubt about it. So, there's a lot of comments out there. One thing I had to give you, Michael Taliaferro is super stoked about this podcast right now, man. He says that he is setting up a 2-disc tournament on his other screen right now. He is getting ready. He doesn't even know if you're announcing anything, but he is putting it out there right now. You heard it here first. Taliaferro is getting some things rocking, and I love it. You know, you've got a lot of excitement out here, man. I'm going to scroll through some comments because I think it's exciting and it's making me excited. You know, Vinny, you're welcome for the platform, sir. You know, you've got Wade out there talking about doing a 2-disc safari round, which I think would be awesome. You know, Taliaferro's talking about doing it as a B-tier, making it a legit, you know, tournament that would get it out there. Obviously, Brian Procrop is monitoring the group, and you know, he put it out there just like you mentioned earlier. For those of you who may have missed, you know, putting league, clinics, kids only, glow rounds, doubles, birdie bash rules, ace race rules, standard rules, grip events are everything. I think that's awesome, man, and seeing this excitement out there is really cool. You know, one thing that I think, you know, we all get excited, we get super stoked about stuff like this, and then we go, all right, let's sit back and talk about the real deal here. You know, where do you see this, you know, and I've seen it in the group here right now, but I've heard it multiple times. Where do you envision this being, you know, 3, 5, 7 years from now? What's the long-term shot for this thing, you think?
Well, you know, it's interesting because I have a vision, but because we've never really realized our place in the sport of disc golf, coupled with the limitations that our business unit presents, being that we're not focused solely on disc golf, like how I threw solely out there, the sky is actually the limit. You know, we feel we have the ability to be a top 4 brand in the sport, but you know, you look at who we are as a company, largely as a soling company, using that as an example, because that's what we've done very well for 80 plus years. If we only concentrated on the top level of folks, our products wouldn't be synonymous with the best rubber soles in the world. And that's the thing we always want to have within our focus is the everyday user plays a critical role in our past, in our present, and in our future. And it's high time we start giving them credit and devoting time to them. I think the grip team could grow in numbers. I foresee a situation where it should. I'm not going to really share my pie in the sky ideas because I don't want to dilute what we're going to be doing on the more immediate end of things. And I also don't want to set ourselves up for failure by creating an unrealistic expectation. But
yeah,
I believe this is our best path as a brand. And part of this is not following the rules of other disc golf companies because we are different. We are the only company in disc golf that can make some of the claims that we can. And rather than seeing that as something that's negative, it is actually something that's quite positive. No other disc golf company has 80 years of experience. So that's something we can really play on and
just
leverage,
business, right? Just business driven anyway.
And use with the relationships that we've created.
Yeah.
And it's high time we start doing that. And, you know, I have a platform that I inherited from Steve Dodge that enables me to do that. And I'm thankful for that opportunity. And now I want to share that opportunity with people that just feel a strong love for the brand and want to be a part of something because they want to be a part of it.
Yeah, I hear that. So let's say that we all get out there and we push this thing and it really hits the ground running and blows it out. Is manufacturing going to be able to support? Let's say a perfect scenario happens. Let's say that we double sales in the first quarter of the year by this grip team. Is that something that manufacturing is going to be able to support within the warehouse? Like what's the anticipation for the ramp up for this?
Well, it's going to be a good problem to have.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know, and our internal processes and internal departments have the abilities to accommodate. You know, we are managing the business much differently than we have previously, and our plans to do so in the future will allow for us to do that. And we'll share more on that in the coming weeks. You know, the grip events won't take place really. They won't get up and running until the first part of next year. Okay. They're not in the budget for this year, but we want to get some creative thinking behind it, and we'll get a couple. We will drive the first few on the calendar, so that we make sure we are working with people that can help us create the best opportunities. But once we get a few under our belt, then we'll start opening it up more. And as we do that, we'll have a firm grasp on the velocity of things and be able to react accordingly.
So are you opposed to the idea that, let's say this goes so great, a huge roll, snowball's going, everything's doing well? I mean, let's say that you're in a position that you need some more support. I mean, is this something that you may open Grip Team up midway through the year? Or are you definitely saying what we start the year with is what we're going to end the year with?
To use the term I used earlier, adjust and adapt.
Yeah.
If it's beyond our control, then we'll have to do something to help gain control on it. And that's why I encourage people to keep applying. Just because we may say no right now doesn't mean the future doesn't present an opportunity. Keep in mind, Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team several times before he made the team.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's fair. So, with this whole approach, it seems to me that, the best analogy, that I brought up in the last podcast too is, the shotgun approach, right? We're taking a blast at it. Let's see, we don't quite have the sniper rifle to where we know exactly where we want to shoot. So we're going to shoot a little bit wider scope and kind of see what works. I think that's good and bad. It's good because it opens you up to a lot of opportunity for new ideas, but it's bad in that, it kind of makes it, in my mind at least, it would make it difficult to measure. How do you anticipate, if you've got a grip team of 20 folks, I mean, is there going to be something where you're comparing, guy 1 against guy 2 and lady 1 against lady 2? Or is this just going to be more of a fluid interaction? Or is that even something that's...
I think part of that might be there's some overthinking going on there. But we will vet the right people. We'll put the right people in the right positions to be successful, ourselves included. Remember earlier when I said both sides of the table, we want to make sure that it is amicable for both parties. And we're not going to I'm not going to compare one person to another because, let's use South Dakota and Texas. I get somebody from South Dakota from Deadwood. Let's say that they're great. They're big in the local scene.
I have no clue where that is.
And they could play a role in an area that's geographically challenged in terms of population density. And then I have somebody in Dallas, Texas that can affect more people. It's not fair to judge those two. It's the quality of the work, the quality of what they bring, their individual skill sets, and the content they give us, whether it's social media content, visual content, written content, opening new accounts, supporting through clinics, any number of channels. This is about individuals. It's not about judging everybody through the same filter.
Makes sense. I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, I think it's one of those things, right, that especially if you've got folks that are awesome on the course and then you've got folks that are good social media, I mean, it's almost impossible to put them on a level playing field anyway, right?
Correct.
Okay, I got that. That's fair. I think that's good. What about, the focus for, those folks out there, the pros out there that, we're part of Team Vibram. We talked earlier about them being, focused on doing tournaments and that sort of thing. But let's say that they come up and they say, "Hey, Jeff, I'm willing to put in a little extra work and go and do the tournaments, but also go hit up retailers." I mean, are these guys going to get, so there's 20 of them out there. At least let's say that all these guys come back and they say they want to do it still. I mean, are those guys getting grandfathered in, you think, or how's that going to work?
I would say I'm going to manage this like any other person that makes a personnel decision. I'm going to put the best people in the best positions for the best opportunity of success. I'm a Cubs fan, so we use that as an example. If Theo Epstein sat down and says, all right, I'm just going to sign all my current team to new contracts next year, knowing that we lost the National League Championship Series this year, and knowing that power hitting, pinch hitting, making contact with the ball, and relief pitching were all issues for us, and we're going to expect the same thing or expect a different result by putting the same people out there? No. And, I have to look at what's fair. Again, we have individuals on the team. I'm happy to share this, and I'm happy that this is the case, that have already applied. I don't want to provoke somebody into applying. They need to apply because they want to apply. I'm not going to ask people individually to apply, because that we're already off to a bad start.
Yeah.
If I have to ask you to do something, if you don't want to do it, hey, you know what? It's not for you. And again, I would say, going back to all those names that I brought up earlier, the people on our team, I'm appreciative of what they've done for us. I've learned from what I was able to accomplish, and I've learned from the challenges that we experienced this year, which for some were many, because this business is changing, and I have to change and adapt with it, and the concept of our team formatting does as well. And I'm not going to judge through biased glasses. I'm not going to say just because they were on the team and they applied, they're going to be on the new team.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because what if there's a better fit in their same town?
Yeah.
And what if I'm able to understand some of the frustrations they may have experienced this year, and know that that might not be something some of them can get past. And I understand that. Again, the business changed, and their expectations didn't change because I presented it in a way at the beginning of the year that, hey, this is going to be more of the same. In fact, The only thing that'll be different is you'll hear from me more. And I wasn't able to deliver on that because there were so many things with this business that needed attention, and so many changes that needed to be made internally behind the scenes that really don't affect the product whatsoever, that I wasn't able to devote the time that I said I could. And that's, from their position, that wasn't easy. And I get that. And I own it. And, I'm sorry that happened, but know this, those experiences will help create great new experiences, because I don't want to go down that road again, and I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. That's not what we're going to do. Again, this blueprint is already established, and it's in alignment with what we're doing as a brand. And if I would say to anybody that's on the team, if you're on the team and you want to apply. If you're skeptical, I understand your skepticism. This probably isn't for you. We wish all those people the very best going forward. We're appreciative of everything they've done. And we hope that we hear from them in the future, because we feel that this is going to be a fun journey, and we're going to grow, and they should feel a part of that when they see it, whether they're currently a part of it or they are in the future or not. We want them to know that they should feel like they're a part of that and take pride and ownership in the steps that we take in the future to grow.
And I think that's, like I said at the end of the last podcast, I made a point to thank those guys, and encourage them to apply too. But, if you sit there and, as a person out there that's a fan of disc golf, and you don't know the history of Vibram disc golf, take some time and go learn the history of Vibram disc golf, because there's been some amazing guys that have got us to this point. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And
there have. And I will say, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
One of the things we have to look at is a map and where people are located, and that's going to play a role. And that in itself creates attrition from our current team, just because of where geographically they're located. A lot of them are condensed in an area that doesn't represent the greatest opportunities, and having that many people on the team in those areas prevent us from areas where we do have tremendous opportunities to grow. And we have to look at that.
So with that being said, you're looking at the region. So let's say that you have two awesome guys, this Texas crowd. I mean, these guys in Texas are nuts, man. I mean, you've got some amazing guys down there in Texas that are really doing a great job pushing the Vibram brand. So, if you've got 4 or 5 guys in that area that are applying for this position, I mean, should they be excited? Should they be nervous? Should they be, beating each other up? I mean, should they cutting brake lines? I mean, how should they be treating this thing?
I would say we're not saving the world of any sort of ill, and hopefully their life isn't dependent on it. So they shouldn't be.
That's fair. That's fair.
And apply if you want to apply. Apply if you feel you can bring something to the table. Don't apply if you're skeptical. Don't apply if you have a negative attitude. Don't apply if you don't want to be solution oriented. And the rest will take care of itself. Texas is a big place. There's a lot of disc golf courses there. So certainly there's as far as states go, it's, one of the top 10 in terms of opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's obvious. Yeah, it's a lot of opportunity there in Texas. So you guys in Texas, put in your application, give it some thought. One of the questions out there was, how about an official resume submission? I mean, is that something that you want to consider, or is that a little bit too formalized for this approach?
We'll have to go back to the GRIP event, I'll just say this. Anytime I've ever applied for anything, if I want it, I do what I can to get it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't go unnoticed. So I don't want to answer that directly, because if an individual wants to do that, they should do it because they want to do it.
Yep. That's fair. Hey, that's good. So those of you out there, what Jeff just did was called you out and said, if you really want it, you got to prove that you want it. So, a question that came out early on, you mentioned that you're not on Facebook. How do people get in touch if they have questions that weren't answered tonight, or let's say that they just want to pester you, tell you how much they love you and how much they love Vibram Disc Golf, and they just want to state their case in another manner? Is there a way for them to do that right now, or is that chain of communication simply, submit your application and make sure that your statement is strong and solid in that application, and you're going to go from there?
As far as applying for the team right now, that's the filter.
Okay.
Keep in mind, I've been working since 6 a.m. this morning, and that's, most days I'm at it from 5 or 6 a.m. till 5 or 6 p.m. So I need a little time to breathe, and I have time set aside to sift through those. But reaching outside of that mechanism is reaching outside of what we've asked people to do.
Yeah.
And okay, that could be a warning flag. And I don't want somebody's enthusiasm to be crushed by that statement, but we've asked that it come that direction. I would say the general inquiry lever on VibramDiscGolf.com website, those all come to me.
Okay.
That's another way, but know that I still have to filter those through, up to a couple hundred emails a day as well.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So, I don't often get back the first day. Chris Lewandowski can attest to that. Your winner tonight. Yeah. It took me a couple of days to get back to him, and because I generally don't want to just get back with 2-sentence responses.
Yeah, I hear that.
I want to get some depth and some meat to what I'm saying, especially if it's a good inquiry. Yeah. But I think we will be able to vet through these people very well, and then don't be surprised if there's a second round of questions that may go out in an email to a number of individuals, so we can learn more and make sure that it's going to be a good fit. I can say that everybody that applied will hear from us in some way, shape, or form.
Good. That was the next question I was going to ask, because somebody in the group asked it very directly and said, hey, is everybody going to find out yay or nay on this thing? So you just answered that. Yes, you are. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, everybody will hear from us. But, this is open till the end of the year. And, we'll slowly but surely start filtering some of it very soon. So some people will hear from us in the next few weeks. Mm-hmm. But we're my days right now, a lot of them are focused on end of year and planning for next year. So, I have some priorities in front of it. And that's one of the beauties of this opportunity lasting through the end of the year, is it buys me time to take care of those other responsibilities first and foremost, so that when I do sit down and really go through this, I am able to focus on it. I am a clear mind, and I have a better picture of how next year's shaping up, so that I can make the best decisions for everybody involved.
Yep, I think that's fair. And I think anybody that's serious about business and getting involved can appreciate that too. So I think that's good. Well, we're coming up. We've got just a couple of minutes, 9 minutes until 8 o'clock. For those of you that missed it, I did a giveaway, and my initial giveaway from the YouTube was supposed to be a gift card and a deck of cards, but I announced it as a float mini of your choice, Chris. So you can actually have the choice if you want the scorecard and the deck of cards instead of a mini. You are welcome to that. So that's what we're looking for. Give me 1 second here, Jeff. I'm just going to do one quick thing. All right, so got that giveaway. We've got another giveaway coming up. But, Jeff, before we get into giveaways and transition over to Hawks Nest and Chris, let's finish up with some final thoughts. I feel like you've answered pretty much every question that was out there, that I feel like is comfortable to go over in this type of setting. I feel like there's some questions, obviously, that some people need to ask on an individual basis, and that's fair. When do you anticipate announcing the team? When is next steps? Can I have you on the podcast to go through the list of names and call them all out? No, I'm just joking. So when's the next steps? Like, when can we expect to hear from you again?
We won't name the team till January.
Okay.
I mean, it's open till December 31st. Because it's open until then, it's not fair to assign positions when we still want to let other people apply. Yeah. And that's not fair to anybody. I foresee this kicking in. Let's look at it. I have show season January and February and beginning of March, trade shows. I realistically seeing this really kicking into gear, boots on the ground sometime in March, just in time for spring season.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, there you go, guys. Beginning of the year, you'll hear an announcement, and then coming up in March, hoping to hit it hard and heavy. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to wrap up with Jeff here over the next couple of moments. I am then going to take a quick break, and I am going to get Chris from Hawks Nest Disc Golf hooked up. We'll come back from that break. I will announce my next giveaway, and then actually I have 2 giveaways. We'll announce those, and I think Chris might have a giveaway for us too. So stay on. Once I'm done with Jeff, I'll flip over to the slideshow. I'm going to use the facilities and refill my drink, that sort of thing. Then we'll be right back with Chris. So, Jeff, thank you so much for coming and talking to us tonight. I mean, just looking at the traffic in the feed, I mean, it's obvious that people are excited about this. It's obvious that, there's always going to be questions out there that, may slip through the cracks. But I think once we go back and we rechurn these past 2 hours, we'll all agree that there's a really positive image and a positive outlook for what's coming in 2018. So I think that's awesome, man. What's the last thing that you want to put out there to the family before we let you go?
I would say heading into this weekend, for all of you that are veterans, we appreciate your service, and thanks for your service to the country.
Absolutely, man. I think that's
awesome.
Because
I know there's a lot of veterans amongst that group, so I want to give them that acknowledgement.
Yeah, I think that's great. All right, guys. Jeff came on, answered all our questions. I feel like put you guys in a better spot. The first winner of the night was Chris Lewandowski, so he got the first one. Stay tuned. I'm going to go on a break. We'll come back. We'll get Chris hooked up, and we will announce our next winner. So you want to make sure, because the next winner, hoping you'll be online so you can answer me right away. Jeff, thank you so much, man. I look forward to doing this again in the near future and having you on, and we'll chat this thing up, brother.
Cool. Thanks. Hey, have a great night, everybody.
Thanks.